What will Indiana Jones be searching for in the Bethesda game? This is Nerdist Now. Folks, it's a new year, and if Bethesda and Lucasfilm Games announcing an Indiana Jones video game was on your 2021 bingo card, well, go buy some lottery tickets while you're still riding that high. What else do you know that we don't? The 33-second teaser trailer packs a lot into its short round runtime, but one thing that's highlighted the most is the Vatican. There's still no release date or any other news about the game, but that didn't stop Nerdist producer Adam Murray from speculating what exactly Indy could be searching for underneath St. Peter's Square. So put on your theory, fedoras, or Fedoras, trademarked, as we investigate what exactly Dr. Jones is most likely going to be digging for. So the Vatican is old, like super old, and when you're that old, you've got a lot of stuff lying around, which is why in 1612, Pope Paul V ordered that all church records must be assembled in one place. That place is the Archivum Secretum, which translates to secret archive, but is actually closer to private archive with its real meaning. A private archive that was made public to Catholic scholars in 1881, and in 2016, only 100 items from the archives were made public. The collection that's available to the public are mostly letters of correspondence between popes and other historical figures, like letters to Pope Pius IX from Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis, Michelangelo's writings about how his assistants weren't being paid on time, and Mary Queen of Scots' letters to the Vatican during her imprisonment, so the worst kind of pen pal. Amongst those letters is also a 60-meter-long document that catalogs the minutes from the years-long trial of the Knights Templar. Now, we don't have time to go and unpack the entirety of the Crusades or cross the streams with Assassin's Creed, but for those who don't know, the Knights Templar were a Catholic military order founded in 1119, they were recognized in 1139 by papal decree, and were active until 1312. So after centuries of wealth and privilege as the church's elite army during the Crusades, the Knights Templar became a liability. Most likely to avoid his financial debt to the order, King Philip IV of France arrested all the knights on October 13, 1307, and charged them with heresy. And when I say wealth, I mean capital W wealth. They had a literal treasure tower with tunnels that was discovered underneath Akko, Israel, and used by the knights 800 years ago. Now, the Templar acquired mass riches from both looting treasures they found on the front lines, as well as acting and working as their own banking network. The treasure of the Templars has never been discovered, and this would be exactly the kind of thing that Indy thinks belongs in a museum. But considering that Benjamin Gates already found said treasure in National Treasure, we're gonna mark this as unlikely.
Hello.
Now, one of the more fantastical items in the archive are the blueprints for a flying machine designed by Brazilian priest Bartolomeu Lourenço de Gusmão. Nailed it. Definitely pronounced his name properly the first time. Now, old Bart lived in a Portuguese colony in Brazil during the late 1600s, and he attempted a number of demonstrations involving paper balloons at the court of King John V of Portugal, and also designed plans for a flying machine that he never actually completed. He called it the Passarola, and it looked like a giant inflated bird. Now, normally the artifacts that Indy gets involved with have some kind of unique power associated with them, like the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, or whatever the Crystal Skull did, but we're pretty sure that blueprints for a bird balloon that was never finished aren't quite worth dying for. Okay, now this last one is a bit of a stretch, so please bear with me, but in 2002, French priest Father Francois Brune released his book, The New Mystery of the Vatican. In it, Brune writes about a device known as the chronovisor, a device that lets its user see through time. Now, obviously, this isn't one of the items on display to the public and has no official confirmation about whether or not it actually exists. Brune, who first learned of this device during the early 1960s, swears the chronovisor exists. After meeting scientist turned priest Father Pellegrino Ernetti, the two were sailing along Venice discussing biblical interpretations when Ernetti stated that theories and interpretations were unnecessary when one could see the truth for himself. He explained to Brune how the chronovisor functioned, allowing the viewer to see and hear events of the past and future. The device is said to be made of 3 precious alloys, cathodes, dials, levers, and has the ability to display myriad historic events in biblical and Roman history. And it already had been used to record Jesus during the time of his crucifixion, so it's basically like an Oculus Rift for a bunch of really sad stuff. It's claimed to have been invented during the 1950s by a secret team of Italian scientists, as well as Werner von Braun, a German scientist who was a member of the SS during World War II and then was brought over to America thanks to Operation Paperclip, where he helped NASA eventually land on the moon. The last part of that is actually true. I know it sounds weird, but that's history. Now, Von Braun had died by the time his name became unfoundedly linked to this project, but it was rumored that Braun was working on the Third Reich's mythical Die Glocke during the final years of World War II. Now, Die Glocke translates to the bell, and was said to be a giant bell-shaped machine capable of having its subject relive the memories of their ancestors. It worked as a precursor to the Animus, which, if you've played Assassin's Creed, you know all about. But with all that said, a time-traveling viewmaster capable of changing history hidden in secret Vatican archives with Nazi scientists lurking around the corner sounds exactly like the kind of thing the good Dr. Jones would not be able to resist. After all, we know how much Indy loves punching fascists. Anyway, folks, there you have it. Our theory for what we think Indy will risk life and limb to find in Bethesda's Indiana Jones game when it finally hits store shelves. Or at least when Indy's not busy being a part-time professor, of course.
Part-time.
But in the meantime, tell us, what do you think? Are there any artifacts that have yet to be discovered by fictional treasure hunters that deserve to be found? What's your favorite Indiana Jones game, and why is it the Emperor's Tomb? Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.